On this week's episode of Life Shot, we've got Julie, who's a life coach from Florida, USA. Julie will be talking to us about our energy, our ego, and why you might want your life coached. Let's have a listen now to the interview I had with her.
Hey yo, it's the Life Shot podcast. Change your world and change the world.
Welcome to the Life Shot podcast. We've got Julie Langlois with us. She's a life coach from Florida, USA. Julie, welcome.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you on the show. We're going to talk today about, I think, why would you want your life coached? So I think that's what we might call the title of the show, yeah? Why you might want your life coached. So you are a life coach, and what does it actually mean? Why don't you tell us what it is?
So I debated about that wording for a long time, life coach. It's quite a hard thing. It's like, if someone comes to you and says, I need some coaching in my life, it's generally a mentorship. So you're looking for some advice or some mentorship in a specific area of your life. But I come from a slightly different angle where, unlike a psychiatrist who's nitpicking at your thoughts and bringing up the past, life coaches essentially will take you from where you are now and work with that as your baseline and then build up from that place. So it's less about looking back to the past is important, but it's more about, okay, this is where we are now and where we're going to. Like, what do you want for your life? What do you want to achieve? What are your, what are your core values, belief systems, and what will help you get to where you want to be fastest,
So why do you do it personally? What is it, like a calling that you felt, hey, I should be doing this? What kind of led you down the path to start something like this?
I have probably been on mentored myself, and I have been to one or two life coaches in my lifetime already. And I'd say the journey kind of began when I was in my mid-20s. I did these sort of mindfulness workshops. And what they did was they essentially, it was like a week-long, the first one I did was a week-long experience called the Human Touch. And it sounds very airy, but essentially what the guy was doing is explaining, okay, this is how the mind works, getting you to realize that you are not your thoughts and that you get to choose your thoughts. And he's got a whole 5-day process in getting you to the end point where you've kind of crushed your belief systems that have been essentially added to you by everyone around you. And then you get to kind of, from that space, you kind of start to develop exactly who you actually want to be rather than this reactive personality, essentially. So that's where it began. And then I've been through a few very difficult periods in my life where I find that where I have reached out to life coaches. And
so can you tell us a bit about those? Because it's probably quite good for our listeners to hear that. What is it that you needed to do? Why was it that you had to go to a life coach? Why do you felt like you had to go? What was it?
So I think the first time that I went to a life coach essentially was when I was in South Africa and I was working for my family business. So we had been, straight out of university, my dad took me aside and said, Jules, I'd really like you to work for the company. And so grateful that I did. I learned so much from him. But after, probably 3 years, I had this nagging voice in my head saying, I'm really not happy. This is not my passion. I don't feel like I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I think a lot of people feel that, in their own jobs. But I started having that feeling, and eventually, after an additional 3 years to working in the family business, I was, the company wasn't in a very strong financial position, and often you can do a job if you're getting a good paycheck at the end of the month, and you can kind of ignore that burning desire to find something that truly ignites you, because you're comfortable, your costs are being paid, and everything's you're financially secure. But at the end of my 6 years with the company, I didn't feel financially secure. I was, I had a lot of guilt in knowing that, and I felt a huge responsibility in the part that I played to get the company to where it was, even if it wasn't, I think I completely misjudged the amount of responsibility that I should have been carrying on my shoulders. But anyway, and then I just was in such a bad place, and I sat down with my dad and mom and had a very emotional weekend where I said my skin was bad, my body was reacting to the stress in a huge way, and I was at that stage where I was, very emotional. I would cry easily. I was weak, like my personality was weak. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I didn't have a lot of money. So I said to Dad, listen, I've got this desire to be a life coach. I have a great passion for people, and I think this is maybe something that I want to do and look into. And he gave me great advice. He said, well, why don't I assist you in the next, 6 weeks or so, and you can go and see a life coach and see if this is something you really want to do with your life. And within 6 weeks, the lady that I was working with got me to see life from a completely different perspective. How I was living, how I was creating my life, the things that I was doing that weren't helping me to get to where I wanted to be, essentially. And from that experience, I knew from the place that I was to where I had come out of that coaching process, I was a completely different person. And that led me to my next journey in life and working on super yachts and traveling all over the world. So that experience fundamentally changed my life.
So that's it is amazing sometimes how you meet a person. It can be, either a friend or, like you say, you went to go see a life coach, and just that one encounter could change the whole course of your life going forward. I've always found that quite fascinating. It's not every time you meet somebody that your life's going to drastically change, but there are certain people you just think back and you think, if I hadn't met that guy, or if I hadn't spoken to that person, then I wouldn't be here today, right? It's just amazing. I'm sure everyone's got like an example of that in their life, right?
Exactly. I listen to a lot of these amazing guys, podcast guys, and they say that, the people that you spend your time with essentially help mold your life going forward. So have a look at who you're spending your most time with in your life, like the closest 5-6 people.
Yeah.
But I mean, I believe in that in some regard, but I think also we have such a responsibility in leading our life to wherever we want it to go. And that you can't really blame others for not, getting to where you want to go, or, enjoying life any less. So
yeah,
it's.
Well, what I want to talk to you about next is you talk a lot about energy. So, and I think that I've come to see lately that there's a lot of things are connected, right? So the universe is connected in many ways. We're all made of the same stardust, as they put it, and so it's almost like sometimes when I say like you meet someone and your life changes, it's almost like fate in a way. But let's not talk about fate just yet. But I want to get your view on energy. So you use that quite a lot. So what is energy, and why is it important?
Okay, that's a good question. So I think the word energy means many things, but the first thing, most practical one that can everyone can essentially relate to is energy to do things. So when you wake up in the morning, do you have energy to get up, and can you accomplish all the things in your life that you need to? It's an important word for me because I've often felt a lack of energy. So my excuse to often not accomplish a task is I'm tired. I don't have enough energy to do this.
It's kind of our go-to excuse, isn't it? Yeah, I'm tired. Gotta
exactly.
Go to bed. I just gotta lay down.
I'm going to feel sorry for myself and lie down and not do anything. Not do the 10 things that are going to completely change my life. So energy, in the form that I study it as well. So it also relates to this. I guess energy is in its essence an invisible force. So it's something that is around us and that we feel, and it's what's interesting is a lot of the work that I study, especially the Chinese-based approach to energy healing, which is called and moving meditational wellness practice, Qigong. That practice itself gives you a very good idea of what different energies feel like. So you'll hear the Chinese talking about the different elements in life.
Oh, is that the water?
Yes.
Air. What are those elements?
So it's air, water, fire, wood,
that's right.
and metal.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So essentially, they believe that in that culture that we're all some form of amalgamation of all the elements. But you have, it's kind of like the astrological charts. You have your base element. So let's just take fire, for example. If your base element is fire, you'll still have all the other elements within you, but that is your leading core guiding. We all know.
So does everyone have a different element? Not everyone's based on fire.
Definitely. And it sounds very airy-fairy, but the Chinese do such a good job of bringing it back down to earth, and it's directly relatable to that thing. So if you think of fire, you'd think of passion and anger and life of the party and someone who walks into the room and really lights things up, right? So we all know someone like that, but they can fly off the handle really quickly, especially if they're tired and things are in their way. And, that's like just a cool way to think about it. And we all know someone who's a bit of an airhead. So a lot of
airhead.
So that essentially people like that their core element is probably going to be an air element. And you know that their head's going to be up in the clouds floating around, and that you often have to bring those kind of creatives back to the point because they'll be playing up in the sky, like with their ideas and trying to get a task done. So anyway, that relates back to the practice in which you can feel that kind of energy. I don't know if you've ever walked around one day and really felt like you were walking on clouds. Like you just feel like you're kind of floating around sometimes, or sometimes you burn up with like you've got a lot of energy and you like feel a bit of heat within you. So it's funny, we all experience these things, but we've never been shown given a tool to really somehow link what it means to what it feels like. So energy is many things, but it's essentially what kind of fuels the body and fuels the soul and helps you to, and within my coaching, I use a meditative practice to help and balance out the different energies so that it releases blockages in the body, which builds life energy, and people can really walk into their day just with more life energy, so able to accomplish more, essentially.
Yeah. So like hearing this, sometimes you think it's something like if I listen to myself, I think it might be hard for me to attain, for example. Like if I listen to Wim Hof, he's like, never get sick again a day in your life, just follow these steps, cold showers, meditation, and then all this jazz. And you think, okay, cool, I'm going to do it. And then you think, will I ever get there? How can he, get injected with a virus and then not get sick? This is what he went through. And you think, and you speak about like, getting these energies and stuff. So how attainable is it for somebody to do it? Is it like, is not hard? Is it just takes a bit of practice? Is it like exercise? Or what is it?
In my experience, because I'm going through the process and I go through it every day, it really is super simple. It comes down to really being in tune with your body, in tune with your. It's almost like a holistic approach to your life, having a holistic, or just an understanding of your body, how it works, but not even, it doesn't even require much thinking. So it's very much a feeling thing. So I don't know if you've heard the phrase, what you focus on expands. Have you?
No. What you focus on is what you get. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah?
Same thing, yeah.
Same thing.
So let's say you're trying to not eat sugar.
Then you probably eat sugar, right?
You will eat more sugar than you normally eat generally,
Because you're thinking about sugar.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you want to eat sugar, yeah.
So,
been there.
Yeah, me too. Trust me. Now you just got to think about nice vegetables and those will come into your
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Vegetables, come to me.
Keep coming. But, so, yeah, what basically, I've lost my train of thought now. What were you talking about?
Oh, it was just about how easy it was for people to attain. So yes. Yeah, I think you said it's about feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. So a lot of that comes with, for example, meditation. So what Wim Hof says, when you meditate, you really actually start to feel your body. You start to really listen to it in a way. And by listening to it, I just mean notice. So let's say, for example, your hand gets goosebumps or pins and needles, for example. So it's the very practical thing of actually just feeling that.
Or like feeling a pain in the side of in your kidneys or something. You're actually sitting there and you think, oh, I've got a little pain over there. So this is noticing those things, right?
Exactly.
Just noticing what's happening at the moment in the body. Okay.
Yeah, and then often I want you to try this. So the next time you have a headache, I want you to sit down. Instead of taking a painkiller, I want you to sit there and feel your headache. Go to try and pinpoint where it's sore. So really think about, okay, the pain is there. And then put a size to it, put a color to it, and then do the process again. And then go back to where it is and go through that process. And what you'll often find is that it completely goes away. So often what you focus on expands. And I feel like when you focus on the body, you're giving it a chance to heal itself. Whereas we're so used to, as a Western culture, taking drugs and whatever we can to get rid of pain, when in fact your body's telling you something. It's saying, hang on, there's something wrong here that you need to look at.
Need to address it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I want to ask you about what you think about global consciousness. And I listened to a Franciscan monk. His name is Richard Rohr, and he talks about unitive consciousness. And it's an idea of our consciousness being united as a human race. So how molecules come together to form. Or particles come together to form molecules, and molecules come together to form atoms. And so we as humans come together to form something as well. So I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but because we've got social consciousness, we've got personal consciousness, social consciousness, and then this idea of global consciousness. Is this something that you've thought about, or something that you teach?
In essence, what makes me believe in some form of social or group or global consciousness is how people will say things that other people are thinking. So let's say you and your partner, you've been spending a lot of time together. Sometimes you often have that experience where you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I knew you were going to say that," or, you know, I knew you'd be here, or whatever the case may be. And those things, I don't think those things are coincidental. I believe that that thoughts become things. So let's say, to an extent where, if you thought something badly about someone else, for example, I believe that in a way they can feel it, and it affects
All
them.
right.
So,
So it's important to watch what you're thinking then, is it? In that way?
100%. I think if everyone took note of what they were thinking, I mean, you can't control what you're thinking. Initially, you have to correct yourself. So when you start becoming conscious of your thought, then okay, well, I'm not that thought. Let's say, and then you can choose to change that thought. You can say, okay, I know my mind automatically generated this thought of I hate beetroot, for example. But then you can say, but you know what, I actually do like beetroot, and it's so good for me, and I'm willing to try it. So it's almost having a conversation with your thought process. And a lot of people haven't separated themselves from, okay, I can choose my thoughts, to I am my thoughts. So the first step is firstly becoming aware that you're not your thoughts and that you can control them. And then once you can control them, you can really start to create a positive environment where you can consider others and you can consider the planet. And
does that make a person less inward focused and more focused on others and as themselves, but also as others and the world? Do you think it helps?
I think so, hugely. I think your goals can then align with the greater good, and then you're not just me focused. Because if you're thinking about yourself all the time, you're not going to care that you've thrown a plastic bottle into the ocean, because chances are you won't see that again. But will someone else, or kill an animal in the ocean, so once you move from being in what's the word? Just focused on your own interests all the time, then we can work towards a better, having more of a global awareness, for sure.
Yeah, so it kind of leads me on to another question, which I'm on a particular journey at the moment. It's taken me. So I grew up as a Christian, and then a few years ago, kind of my world rocked a little bit, and I really had to start, searching again, as it were. And so my journey at the moment is quite. I'm going through a season where I'm looking more inward at the moment. But I think that it's an important season at the moment to look inward, to say, hey, what do I think? What's this all about? What's my body? What's it saying to me? Where's my soul? Where's my spirit? What's going on? And I think what I want to ask you is, so I just wrote it down here. I just want to make sure that I get the question out. But it's can like inward, you got to search yourself and look inward sometimes, but it can be seen as maybe selfish with your loved ones. So they think, hey, I'm spending all this time doing my breathing exercises. I spend a whole hour in the morning, and it's all about Clinton now he's going for his cold shower, and what's the balance? And do you think it's necessary that we do that? And how do we balance that with our loved ones? Should we say, hey, listen, I'm just going through a bit of a period right now. Can you just give me a bit of space? I don't know.
Well,
what do you think?
That's a really cool question, because I have been through one or two difficult times on the yacht that I work on, and then you're dealing with a crew of 9 that really feel your absence, or they feel it when you're there, or they feel your energy. Not your energy, but if you're in a bad mood, they'll pick it up straight away, and it'll fix.
Yeah, I mean, you can see a person in a bad mood straight away, can't you?
Yeah, and it can turn your
and a good mood
into a bad mood. Hey, it can be contagious if you're not aware. But so I think it's important to communicate always. and say, that you can make it like a little bit lighter and say, listen, I am going through something and I need this space. Is it okay if you give me this time? And I think the other thing is, these practices that you're doing, they're really beneficial to your body, and they're beneficial to who you are and your ability to contribute long-term to your family. And I think, anyone that's struggling with this with their family can say, well, I could be out drinking and smoking and doing lots of things that are really bad for me, but this journey that I'm going on is a beautiful self-discovery journey, and I'm really figuring things out about myself. And why don't you join me? Why don't you, or you can make up for it maybe at another stage and say, listen, you've given me all this time as a dad and someone who's also trying to contribute to this family and spend time with the kids, and maybe you can give back in another way. But I think it's wonderful. I think the journey you're going through will only enrich your life in every.
I mean, it's an exciting journey, yeah, and I'm really looking forward to more, basically, of where I can actually, I'm going through something, and I want to be able to maybe share that with somebody else on the other end, and it's difficult to share with your most closest ones, because and I'm sure you probably maybe experienced this, but it is difficult to kind of be excited, not be excited about with your loved ones, but it's difficult to convince them, right? Because they know who you are, in a sense, and so, but yeah, so it's an exciting journey, definitely. I think it's leading me towards being more of a well-rounded person, and whereas in the past I was quite because I'm choleric as a personality, so I'm probably a bit more of a fire, with the qigong, and so I'm quite like shoot from the hip, and I'm go, and so I'm thinking a little bit more calm, a little bit more a bit more compassionate. I think I'm feeling that, and also at the same time a bit more like go and get it, but in a different way, like kind of stop making excuses, just do the thing that you're supposed to do. So that's been really good. Yeah. So I'm talking. So just on the same topic about the ego. So I'd like to talk just about a bit about the ego, because I think that some days I feel like on top of the world. So I'll be walking through town and I feel quite confident about myself, and then on other days I might walk through town and I feel quite low about myself, and I look at other people and think, well, I'm just nothing compared to them. Or sometimes I walk to town and maybe I'm a bit elevated about myself, but maybe I'm feeling good or maybe feeling bad. But I think the ego got a bit of a role to play there, right? And I think it's about how this front that I'm putting up to the world, it's feeling good right now, and then other days this ego is not feeling so good. But I think that the ego is not something that we should totally get rid of. But at some point, we should move away from it and kind of realize that we are not our ego. But I just wanted to ask you, what's your thoughts on ego, and how important is it to have it and then not have it at times?
So I think the question here is, how do you be authentic? Like, if you're trying to get rid of your ego, it's like trying to sift through, okay, what's my ego, and what part of it is actually true. Like, part of this is me, the real me, or the deeper part of me that is authentic. And another thing you've got to be careful for is comparison as well. Comparison, they say, is the mother of all evil. And it really is. I think if you're comparing yourself from one day to another, or you're looking at yourself compared to others, you're always going to be left wanting. So listen, the ego, a very strong or very powerful thing to use with this, to to kind of develop who you are more is using intention. So if you start living more with intention in your life, you're going to be guiding that ego, essentially. So guiding your authentic self, which I guess sometimes let's say you at the moment you have realized that you have an ego. Okay, so then what I would say to you is, okay, the first thing I'd want you to do is get out of your head. Get out of your head, because once you're out of your head, you can actually start to live from your intuition and who you are. You can listen to your gut. You can do all those wonderful things. And notice what you're reacting to. So often you'll have a bad day because something happened or you had a thought. So I would say try and pinpoint what that thought was. Try and see, who pushed your button. What was that?
What do you do with it once you know, though? Because let's say you realize, okay, it's because I had a fight with my better half. And what do you do with that? Yeah.
Okay. Well, you have a fight with your better half. You can choose to carry that fight with you for the rest of the day, or you can drop it, tell her you love her, come to some common ground and move forward. And I think the biggest thing with that is also realizing that it's like you're breaking habits with the ego as well. So you're going to fall back into that habit at some stage. And then you just have to breathe through it, bring yourself back to the ground, take a deep breath, and say, okay, what do I actually want to produce here? Like, how do I want to be in this world? How do I want to feel?
Taking control of your emotions and thoughts.
Oh, I was going to just on that. It's also labeling the feeling. So we're very good as humans at labeling feelings. So let's say you feel your heart's racing and your skin is hot and that can be mistaken for anxiety, but it could also be excitement. So how are you looking at that reaction? Often when you're in a fearful situation, it's actually your body giving you everything you need that you would have in the same situation as you were if you were really excited. So look at those feelings. Are you labeling? And the cool thing is you can label them however you'd like to. So if you have this stuff welling up inside of you, you can say, okay, you know what? I know I'm scared, but this is also the reason I'm scared is because this is change and I'm excited about this. And then you can try and use your mind and your ego to put a spin on it and just say, you know what? Actually, I love my wife for her, or my partner for her opinions and the fact that she's so strong in her belief systems. And do I have to change her? So it's becoming like aware of, what's pushing your buttons. How do you want to label your feelings? Taking a deep breath, really looking at how you want to be in the world, and then working towards that every day, because it's a daily journey. And some days you'll get it right, and some days you won't. But this is a lifetime journey. It's something that takes it's not over in a day. You can't get it right to get there.
With you being a life coach, so I mean, how long do people come and see you? So do they need? If I needed to help to do the things that you're saying right now, do I need to see a life coach once a week for a year? Do I have a 6-week stint? What do you suggest for someone who might be thinking about, hey, maybe I should get my life coach? I need a bit of one-on-one.
Well, the first thing I would say is I work with a 6 to 10 week program. So that gives me enough time to really kind of work with someone, figure out really what their intention is. Because initially when people go into some form of, I know I experienced it, you go into coaching, and by the end of the, how you've committed to, you find out, what, it actually wasn't about the thing that I went into coaching for. Oh, it's about something completely different. So the mentorship could be lifetimes worth, but hopefully you can, my aim is to give someone enough solid grounding for them to walk out and make those decisions on their own. So I wouldn't want to see someone for a lifetime. I'd want them to come and get that strength of and understanding of who they are and what they want in their life, and then, just see them go off and conquer the world. So that's my aim. Yeah.
It's brilliant. So so I suppose different people would have, someone would take a lot away in 6 weeks, and some people might say, I might need a bit longer. So I suppose it's different for different people. I mean, you've probably seen that. I think people are different stages in their lives, and it is interesting to see how some people might receive something from. Let's say you teach something in the same way to two different people, you'll get two different responses from those people.
Yeah.
And that's quite an interesting dynamic, isn't it? It's like I'm giving the same message, but someone receives it in a different way. Yeah. I just find that quite fascinating. I was just telling my wife yesterday that I read a book the other day by that Franciscan monk Richard Rohr, and it was really like earth shattering to me. And I gave it to a friend. He said, "Oh yeah. I think it's not that out there." I was like, oh, "Okay." I just thought I was way out there. So some people might think, this life coaching and stuff is way out there. And some might think, well, it's probably just what I need. And, some people say, I don't need life coaching, but maybe in a few years they do. So it is interesting to think about the human mind and where it's taking us. And also not just the mind, but, our souls and our spirits are leading us into the different places. So that's interesting. So I think there's a trend now for life coaching, isn't it? Do you see that there's an increase in the number of life coaches, and why do you think that is?
Oh my gosh, there is such an increase in life coaches. It's unbelievable. I think there's I'm going to throw the word out that you used earlier. There's some form of social global consciousness that's heading that way. I think I think a lot of the message that Tony Robbins and Oprah and, how the internet's hit the world and everyone's got access to all this information now. And I think humans are really searching for something better. I think we all fundamentally know that we deserve a good, happy, wonderful life. And I think a lot of people are going to life coaches and being inspired to share. So I think it's more people. A lot of life coaches have experienced what I have, this incredible feeling of having direction, having purpose, and doing something with significance. And I think that significance has a big pull for a lot of people.
Yeah. And you've been through the depths, so you've been down to hell, as it were, and you've come back, and you were hurting, and you got healed, and now you're helping others to heal, right? In a way.
Yes, yeah. I think that's a big part of it. I think it's definitely not for everyone. Some people are inspired by interior decorating and being creative, and I just have this deep desire to connect with human beings. That's really what drives me. And the beautiful thing about coaching is that you can really, as a coach, I am merely just a guide. The person does all the work themselves, like the amount of effort and time they put into the homework that I give them, or, the introspection that they do is what they get out of it. So it's it's kind of like that. You can lead a horse to water, but only the horse can drink. So, I've got a bit sidetracked on the question there, but yeah, for me, it's about connecting with people. And I think a lot of people are feeling the need to connect. Yeah.
So we're going to end it off in a few minutes, but just a few last closing things. So if we said why you might need your life coached, what type of people would need, not that they necessarily need to see a life coach, but Well, let's say they do, okay? Because you're a life coach. Let's just talk about that. What type of people do you think most need a life coach, and what are the different levels? So some people might need a life coach just for a few weeks. Some people might need it for longer. What are there people that are down and out, or could it be like executives who need to be able to get an edge? What is it that why would they need a life coach?
So you would. So let's say there's so many different reasons. Some people just are looking for an external person to talk to. So it could just be, conversations about situations or that they want to sound out to somebody else. So that's one reason. Another reason would be someone was dealing with very stressful situations. As a life coach, you can really help give some form of perspective with how someone is dealing with anxiety. Give them tools to sort out or to really handle situations in a way that is going to be healthy for them. Personally, I've experienced loss in my family, and I know how beneficial it is to talk to someone else who has also experienced loss, or who can lend an ear for that healing to happen. There's so many reasons, Clint, and I think, when I did my first coaching, I did probably 6 weeks. No, I think I did 8 weeks. But by the 8th week, I actually thought, you know what, I'm done. I'm actually done with coaching. So whether it's a career change, that's another thing. So are you actually doing what you love to do? Leadership, are you being an effective leader? Do you feel like you are contributing towards a team, in a way that is meaningful, in which will build the team and create a sustainable future for your company?
So just trying to be a better you, a better version of yourself.
Exactly. Be a more you. Someone looking to do some introspection and really figuring out who they are and what they want in life. That's the biggest reason, I would say. Someone would come and see me, for example. Yeah.
Excellent. So, so Julie, before you go today, what is it? Where are you going to be in the next, say, 5 years? Are you still going to be, in Florida, USA? You're going to be life coaching there. Are you going to work nationally, or are you just going to work in your area? What's your plans?
So, initially, my plan is to target, the yachting industry. I'm currently working on board a super yacht as a stewardess on top of being a life coach. And the beautiful thing about my yachting job is it kind of takes me all over the world. So for the next, let's say, 5 years or so, I aim to build up my business and really start to become more accessible to people online. So most of my work will be online. So it will be Skype interviews or Skype sessions. Everyone's on WhatsApp now and Facebook. And so basically I have an online platform. And then the clients that I have worked with are based in Johannesburg and on other boats. And then I've only probably worked with 1 or 2 in the same location that I'm in, so I can actually see them face to face. So I'm hoping to build something awesome in the next 5 years. Definitely not be sailing the seas still, but we'll see what happens there. And yeah, I'm really excited about the future, wherever it takes me.
Well, good. So, we hope to have you back on the show at some point, and maybe we could see kind of part 2 of your life as a life coach, and give us some more advice for our listeners then. But Julie Langlois, it's been great having you on the show, and we wish you all the very best there in Florida and in your travels around the world. And thanks for being on the show. You got any last thoughts that you want to leave with listeners? Maybe a nugget of information or advice or something like that?
Okay, one last thing is just do whatever makes you happy. Just spend 1 week following happiness. That is my one piece of advice. If everyone did what made them happy, this will be incredible. So
I want to go out and just ride my dirt bike now for a week.
go and ride your dirt bike.
Is that okay?
Do it.
Yeah.
You're allowed.
I was going to phone my boss quickly. It was my phone. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right, Julie, you have a good day.
Thanks, Clint. Okay.
See you around.